Hey guys, welcome back to AFK Journey. In today's video, we have the final boss recap for entering into the endless mode. Now, if you're a new player still going through the very beginning of the game, getting through difficulties, it is a different situation with every boss as you go through difficulties. So I do have an earlier video, but now that we're into endless mode, I'm looking at trying to maximize your damage. Now, if you're a whale or an endgame player and you have a bunch of max characters, I will leave a link to the 3 websites that have fantastic resources for those end game metas, and they'll be in the description and the pinned comment. We've got Vatra's website, we've got Analytica, and we've got Pridewin there. But in this one, I want to go through my personal free-to-play progression, trying to maximize my damage in this boss, and show you guys the strategies. Now, the fantastic thing about Skyclops is it's actually kind of the easiest boss when we get to endless mode, because the dude has the massive laser beam for an ult, and it just sort of does wet noodle damage. Now, this can change once you get higher level. As you can tell now, I used to have 3 level 220s and 2 level 230s. Once you get higher levels, maybe you ramp up the damage faster, that his damage increases, and then it becomes an issue. And when it is an issue, Coco is fantastic. But I've gone through and tested out a bunch of different teams, also mixing around the levels of my characters when I've been using 3 DPS, and basically every team that I've experimented with has fallen between 30 million and 32 million damage. So there's a lot of different variants you can use with this one and still get some pretty reasonable damage. So once again, I'm using Merrily because she's Mythic Plus. If you don't have her at Mythic Plus, you can still try testing her, because this is one of those boss battles where you can actually bring a more DPS into it. So I tested any combination of these 5 units along with Thorin as well, and also along with Kruger. And like I said, every combination gets me around that 30 to 32 million damage pretty consistently. So the main characters that most people will be building up will be perfectly fine for this one, and you can get some decent results. Now, when I use Coco, I tried max leveling both Odie and Merrily because they have the true damage, so that attack buff is more effective. When I was using Kruger, I go ahead and I make my Cecilia the max level unit, because she gets more benefit out of that defense break than what Odie does. So that's when I try and maximize her damage. Also, then we have Carlisle, who ends up tanking once Kruger does die, but Kruger only dies on the last ultimate. So this is what I want to show you. First of all, I want to show you this comp to show you that you don't actually need Thorin in this one. However, Thorin's damage amplification is still solid and still gets you similar results. Actually, the Thorin team did get my just barely highest result. Obviously, there's a bit of RNG in that. Maybe I could try with another one and get better. But Thorin is still fantastic. But I just want to show you guys where we're at with this one. We can use Kruger and use the other DPS. Once again, I got Cecilia at 230. Merrily's always going to be 230 if you have her. She's just got such high damage output. But then I have Cecilia because she benefits from the shred. So let's jump in and see. The other thing I like about Cecilia in this one, once again, this evolves once you have every unit max and stuff like that, but Carlisle does help us wipe out those ads when he summons them a bit better. So let's jump in. And like I said, all the other bosses have been pretty stressful to try and max my damage. There's like a big fluctuation in my best team to my worst team, also sometimes between runs, whereas this boss is just pretty straightforward. The boss doesn't really do damage anymore. When you were working through the difficulties, like the ultimate was the absolute killer. Like if you didn't have Coco, you were melted. But now it's kind of like you don't need a tank, you don't need a Coco, the beam does nothing, and you can just sort of cruise through. Like I said, Kruger does die to the final ultimate in this fight, but you know, you're not really losing much damage because Kruger already has his max death shred, so you're not too stressed about that sort of thing. So as you can see here, we do get the ads summoned. We get them down pretty quick. We keep pumping through. I think Kruger survives the next ultimate, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong on that take. I don't know why the boss isn't using his ultimate. He should be using his ultimate. There it is. Boom. Happy days. He's going to summon some ads here. Here come the light ads right now. We're going to tap them pretty quickly. Hopefully. Carlisle, where's the big ground smash? Where's the ground pound, buddy? Where's the ground pound? There we go. All right, here comes the ult that's going to kill our Kruger. Like I said, that is where Kruger does fall. We've only got 12 seconds left though at that point, so it doesn't really matter. And then we're just going to punch out as much as we can into the last one. We get the last ult. As you can see, we go 31. This is actually a new record for me. So once again, RNG is the thing. There we go. We go to 31.6 on that one. So once again, you don't need it. Once again, if you do get higher in the damage rankings because your character's a higher level, it might be this case that the ultimate scales and then you might need the Coco for that. But that's pretty solid, and that is something that you can definitely do in these situations. Now, the other formation, which had my previous best score, was actually going in and using this team where I use the Thorin and these guys, and that worked perfectly well. I had another one where I dropped, where I had this comp, and I ran this, and it similarly worked really well. So there are a lot of formations. I'll go ahead and show you guys a couple more formations of these runs, but it is one of those ones. Feel free to experiment. But the great thing with this one is you don't get heavily penalized for having a little bit of a different formation, because like I said, it's pretty consistent on what you can actually deal. And so this one may seem weird because we have one less damage dealer, but it does work well. I even tried this team dropping Coco and putting Cecilia in place of Coco, but that actually gets us lower damage. Now, I think a bit of that would be that we lose a faction bonus, so we lose 10% attack for the entire fight, which is, attack is a very good thing when you're dealing true damage. So that's a thing. Also, Coco, once again, because of attack, does scale that attack. Also, I only have 2 level 230s, so Cecilia would be lower level, and then I'd lose damage. If I had 3 level 230s, maybe that's Cecilia then excels. It's just one of those ones you've just got to play by ear and see how you go. But let's go ahead, let's jump into this one, and I'll show you guys how this one goes. I also did try teams using both Thorin and Kruger to try and max amplify that damage, but because we do have so much true damage in this one, it doesn't become like a necessary thing. So let's see how this run goes. See if we can, once again, beat that record. But once again, once you find a team you're pretty happy with, just retry it. You get 20 tries a day. So go ahead and try and max your damage. I mean, that's what I always do. Once I find a formation that I think is my best formation, I just go ham on that formation and try and just absolutely max the damage I can do and get the highest rank possible. I don't think I'm going to go crazy in this one. I'm falling in that 10 to 20 range on my server at the moment, but the odd time I will bump up into the top 10, which is amazing for me. So I always try and push as hard as I can on these bosses. So once again, you'll see we have absolutely zero survival issues with this one. Now, I do leave my Thorin in the front row position in this fight because I do want him taking those attacks. I just consider it to be an extra little bit of retaliation damage that he can deal to try and min-max every little bit of damage that I can get out of him. So that's the reason for that. He's going to go ahead and summon the ads here. Now, because we don't have the Cecilia, it takes us longer to take down the ads in this formation is the only issue that we do have. So you can see we're at 5 seconds. Now we're getting back into damage dealing capacity, and we go into that, once again, that 31 mil range, pretty close to where the previous team was. And that's the sort of damage potential you have. So let's go ahead. We'll take a look at one more formation that, once again, you guys can try. As I mentioned, if you don't have Merrilee, you can actually try her. But I would honestly, if I didn't have Merrilee, I would be using this formation here. I would probably be looking at something like this. If you didn't have her at Mythic Plus, that is. This could be decent. Otherwise, you could look to doing this one here with the Kruger instead of that one. You can try it with the Thorin, or you can try it with the Kruger, and you should be pretty good to get a decent damage amount out of it. We're going to go ahead and try this one, see how it goes. I think this one should have the most damage output, just because that Death Shred with Cecilia should be pretty solid. But once again, you could try it with the what's-his-face as well. Now, don't expect me to get as high damage as I was, because Merrilee is such an important thing in these teams. But if you don't have her, I'd be looking at this one going for max damage amplification. We're getting the attack buff through the Coco, we're getting the Death Shred through the Kruger, and then we've got our 2 damage dealers. But once again, you could try this team with like a Merrilee instead of the Kruger if she was pre-Mythic Plus, but she just gains so much damage through that Mythic Plus upgrade that I don't think that would be as beneficial. But once again, you would have to try that. I can't try that for you because obviously mine is Mythic Plus, so I've already sort of crossed that bridge and I can't go back. So let's see how this one goes for a non-Merrilee Mythic Plus team. I'd say we'd probably get like 23, 24 million, which is still reasonable. Like it's not horrible, considering we are missing like the primary damage dealer in the comp. So should go ahead and summon some ads. Unfortunately, we just did the ground pound with Carlisle, so he's ages away from the AoE damage that we really need. So and that's where you can play around with timing. Once again, you can always adjust timing in these fights by using the attack speed artifact. It's actually a thing that you can really sort of manipulate well. But once again, it kind of is what it is. There we go. We go up and we get what do we get? 25 million, which honestly isn't too bad considering that would be a team that has no Merrilee in it, which, you know, some people may still be at that stage, but hopefully most of you are getting her built up so that you can get to that. But for those that don't have Merrilee, we're going to do one more try just for the sake of testing. And we're going to go with it like this with Thorin. Now, I do have Thorin's link. It doesn't really matter too much in the scale of this fight. He takes some damage for Odie, which will then help him in the odd situation where he's charging while he's absorbing that damage. But Odie's really only taking damage from the beam, so it's not too consistent. So the Mythic Plus on Thorin doesn't really matter too much in this one. And as you saw, we can actually just do it without him and use Kruger instead. Even a low Ascension Kruger, we will be fine. So let's see how we go here. Hopefully we can kill those things pretty quick. Let's go. And once again, my Odie is Mythic Plus, so I can only test so many things, but I feel like this is a fair idea of what your damage potential is without Merrilee, which the damage potential is still pretty decent in my opinion. So I think we're going a lot slower on damage. I think we were at about 15 million damage at this point on the other team. So I think Kruger, especially when you've got a high leveled Cecilia, is going to be the better play. Whereas I think Thorin is kind of, honestly, Thorin's pretty on par with Kruger when you're running, the Merrilee comp, just because, yes, you do get the amplification, but Thorin does also give the amplification, so it's both. They're kind of fairly similar in my opinion. So the previous one where we used Kruger, we got the 25 million. Once again, there is a bit of RNG, but I think we can safely say that the Kruger team is probably just a little bit better than the Thorin team. But either way you do it, like I said, you're going to be getting a reasonable score, and that is the Skyclops. Let me know if you guys have any other tech suggestions. Once again, I'm only going through the best things that I can come up with myself and the best strategies. If you guys have anything crazy, mind-blowing for me, please let me know. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.